room because the news is slow to get out. So she went to the sanctuary and is on her way down here now. So we'll be ready to start Sunday school very soon. Hopefully you can hear. Let us know in the chat. I'll turn on the chat when we first get started, and we'll go. Kathy. Oh, like crap! There's two Kathys. I mean, doggone it, there's two Kathys. I got your stuff.
Okay.
This is the Sunday school stream, so you're on it. It's on the pulpit, and so what'll happen is you'll read at the scripture reading time, and then go sit down, and then like as Marky starts singing, and you'll come up and light the pink candle. Get up top there, yeah.
So I'll read the scripture reading.
Correct.
And then go back and sit down, and when he starts.
Yes, when Marky starts singing, you come up and light the pink candle. And at that point, I'll turn the heat off so it doesn't blow out the candles.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think I can do that.
Ready? Yeah. You're going to sing it's not everywhere.
See, Kathy? Yes, just barely.
He's telling me that sound thing's working. Oh, okay. Hopefully. Hopefully, okay, very well.
Yeah, what is that? Needs you to hit that end string button, end string, and just leave it. Hey, Linda. Good morning, everyone. Let me make an announcement real quick. And this is, if you'll want to hear this. If you guys think, hey, I'm going to step over to the corner and have a side conversation, that computer is live streaming Sunday school, and it has a microphone on it that takes the sound from those speakers, picks it up on there, and they can hear it. So your private conversation, if you step off to the side to hear, will be broadcast worldwide. Okay, I just want y'all to know that. So if you decide to go over there and have a powwow, it ain't as private as you think it is. Okay? Other than that, I'll just announce that, well, I guess we'll be back down here. It can help us up there, and y'all have been requesting it as well. So I'm glad that we were able to do that. I hope the sound picks up. I'm going to go and type a message for them to comment, and I'll look at it later if they how the sound's working. I may have to address some things by running the cable around the world, but we'll see. We'll do what we got to do. Other announcements: the 16th is Wednesday, right? We have another food distribution coming up with Nana. Yes. It's Thursday. Yeah, Thursday. I don't know why I always say. But on the 16th, we have another one of those, and it's the same deal. Volunteers at 9:30, and we'll start at as close to noon as we can. We're going to do it down here instead of doing it up there this time, because if someone needs a code, we can send them in. We have them in the different classrooms. They can go through, thanks to people like Jim and others who have been working so hard at it. They can go through and pick up what they want. It just won't be all over here. It's Christmas and we need our fellowship hall. So Merry Christmas, and I'll see y'all upstairs. Yes, ma'am? Okay. We can, but what she's talking about is the dinner we just had Wednesday was all of our Christmas meals in one. And then one of the previous announcements snuck its way through and on the newsletter. So it had been announced erroneously that there is a dinner this Sunday, but there's not. Okay? So that's what she's talking about, and yes, I'll do all part of it. Yes, sir. Thank you. You cannot be here. Okay. If he shows up, just welcome him and be nice. He's probably related to you somehow. Everybody is. All right, thank y'all. Here's Catherine. Yeah, let's pray. Heavenly Father, I ask that you please guide us as we seek to learn more about you. And thank you for your son for Christmas and the many reasons that we have to enjoy it. I ask that you would please help us to work well together as we continue to learn and grow in faith in ever-changing times and in this world in which we live. Make this prayer in Jesus' name. Amen. Because right next to this pole, that's a better question. You know, when the Doors first started, Jim Morrison sang with his back to the crowd. Maybe you should teach like that, huh?
Larry, can you hear me? Oh.
Yeah, you can.
Okay. I mean, I thought that you came down here, and I did the ear thing. Is it okay? Can you see me now? Good morning. I want all you folks to know that I had a wonderful husband. Don't look at him. He'll be self-conscious. He's loving and affectionate. He helps around the house. I can't even remember the last time I even touched the bathroom cleaner. He makes his breakfast and lunch. He's handy. He fixes everything. We've never had an electrician or a plumber around. He just fixes it. And he's kept me laughing every day for more than 50 years. I couldn't have asked for a better man. However, there are a few issues. When we're walking out at the mall or on the street or somewhere in a crowd, he gets ahead of me and he doesn't ever look back. I could be 100 yards behind him and he would never ever know it. As an aside, if you get his take on this, it's fake news. When we cross a busy street, he steps out on his own and leaves poor little me to my own devices.
Like the way you walk, the women always walk behind the men forever, you know. Well, they were letting the women walk in front. Somebody said, we're really proud that you've changed your ways. Now that you're letting the women walk up, the husband said, landmines.
I'm sure that's the truth. All right, when Harold does this, I always holler out to him and call and say, Harold, shepherd me, don't I? Everybody needs a shepherd. Everybody needs a good shepherd. Kurt talked about shepherds last week, and Rachel talked about shepherds last week in his sermon. And he mentioned that they were the lowest of the low in ancient society. But they were amongst the most necessary. We don't need or have shepherds in that respect anymore. But the connotation of shepherding, the image of being shepherded when we're in need, is one that is used widely, even today, and one that really we feel inside. And that's what we're going to talk about today, is about shepherding. Our lesson is entitled, God Will Be the Shepherd. And it's from the book of Ezekiel. I've really enjoyed reading about Ezekiel this week. Interesting guy, Ezekiel. I want you to think back, you Canton folks of a certain age, about some of the unusual and unique characters that you remember from Canton Road. People that you might not always know where they were coming from. Charlie Fulham. Who in Canton didn't know Charlie Fulham? What a character. Roy Smith. If I've got Roy on my list, he must have drive up and down North Main without a car. Put money in the meter and the cops would honor it. Charlie Fulham was the softball, champion softball game one time, slamming somebody on the other team. And some woman from the other team stood up and said, and Blaine blasted him. How did it go exactly? I remember his punchline, but she said, what are you talking about? You don't even know him. I don't know who he was going to. You don't even know him. And Charlie said, and she said, you even know him? And he said, no, I know he's higher than a canary. So everybody knew Charlie. Jim Wills giving out chewing gum to everybody down as he walked up and down the street, which was cool. Jinsey Nestle and all her witticisms, lots of unusual characters that really all of us knew. Well, Ezekiel was such an unusual and unique character that no one who knew him would ever forget. He was a priest, probably among those elite carried into the Babylonian exile in the very earliest batch of people who left. His call to be a prophet came through an ecstatic, awe-inspiring vision of Yahweh upon a throne borne by a chariot. To say the least, Ezekiel was an unusual person, probably considered a religious eccentric by the people of his day. His religious experience was, as I indicated, of an ecstatic nature, bordering on the abnormal. Visualizing Yahweh enthroned in a storm, or at one point he actually felt himself, Ezekiel, bodily transported back to Jerusalem to witness the abominations practiced there. His message had a very rich imagery, says my college Old Testament textbook, like no other Old Testament writer. And he was a writer. Scholars see many of the books of the Old Testament, as well as some of the New as well, as compilations by writers other than the person that the book is named after. was stuff passed down by word of mouth in some cases. But Ezekiel was the exception. Scholars think that his stuff was his stuff that he carefully compiled himself. The book of Ezekiel is a whole progression of subjects. The first part of the book is prophecies of judgment on Judah and Jerusalem and their rulers. He lays them out. He takes the issue from afar while he's in exile with what the rulers are doing and have done. The second part is a collection of similar messages of judgment against 7 foreign nations and their rulers. Judah's enemies. The third section, he switches gears, and this comes after the fall of Jerusalem, which happened a number of years after he was taken out of Judah. It's Ezekiel's words of encouragement to the people of Judah after the fall of Jerusalem. And that's where our lesson falls today in that third section. And then the fourth section is looking forward, is trying up the vision of a restored temple and nation. Our scripture is from Ezekiel 34, 11 through 16, but since we're talking about shepherding and the connotations for the children of Israel, as well as for ourselves in our modern day, I'm going to go back to the beginning of 34 to give us a sense of bad shepherding as well as good in this focus passage. And by the way, let me just interject at this point. This image of shepherding, good or bad, is found many places in the Bible in a figurative way. When I say figurative, I mean shepherding as a metaphor for leadership. Do you know a good leader when you see one? I worked under 5 school principals, and I could sure rank them. Couldn't, according to their shepherding ability. What can a leader's failure do to the people that they lead? Well, and if it's a bad shepherd, have you ever been, I've been in a school where the morale was so low. I can talk about this because nobody knows this person. When I taught in Asheville, we had pretty good principal, and then we got another one who just really wasn't in lots of ways, and I'm not going into lots of ways. But let me tell you who I taught with over in Asheville, Bob Bridgman. Anybody remember? Well, y'all remember Bob Bridgman, but y'all remember Bob Bridgman from Canton High School. He taught industrial arts at Canton High School. And he was a character. He just died. He just passed away. And on Facebook anyway, he was lauded by lots of people. He was a real unique individual. I had the privilege of teaching with him over in Asheville back when it was a junior high school. And he rallied us. You know, even though the principal was so crummy, it's kind of sad how we turned against the principal led by Bob Bridgman, who kind of rallied us and kept our morale up. But if you have a bad leader, it really does hurt morale, doesn't it? Okay, let's look at the scripture. And I am going to read the first of 34. Then this message came to me from the Lord. Son of man, prophesy against the shepherds, the leaders of Israel. Give them this message from the sovereign Lord. Quote, destruction is certain for you shepherds who feed yourselves instead of your flocks. Shouldn't shepherds feed their sheep? You drink the milk, wear the wool, and feed your best animals, but you let your flocks starve. You have not taken care of the weak. You have not tended the sick or bound up the broken bones. You have not gone looking for those who have wandered away or lost. Instead, you have ruled them with force and cruelty. So my sheep have been scattered without shepherd. They are easy prey for wild animals. They've wandered through the mountains and hills, across the face of the earth, yet no one has gone to search for them. Therefore, you shepherds, hear the word of the Lord. As surely as I live, says the sovereign Lord, you abandoned my flock and left them to be attacked by every wild animal. Though you were my shepherds, you didn't search for my sheep when they were lost. You took care of yourselves and left the sheep to starve. Therefore, you shepherds, hear the word of the Lord. This is what the sovereign Lord says. I now consider these shepherds my enemies, and I will hold them responsible for what has happened to my flock. I will take away their right to feed the flock, along with their right to feed themselves. I will rescue my flock from their mouths. The sheep will no longer be their prey. Does that kind of give you the heebie-jeebies? He's condemning the kings who have led Judah, and he likens them to bad shepherds. The people have been like sheep without a shepherd. And then God, through Ezekiel, makes a new announcement beginning with 11. And this is our focus today. Listen to how many times it says, I will. Okay, this is 11 through 16. And this is what the sovereign Lord says. I myself will search and find my sheep. I will be like a shepherd looking for his scattered flock. I will find my sheep and rescue them from all the places to which they were scattered on that dark and cloudy day. I will bring them back home to their own land of Israel from among the peoples and nations. I will feed them on the mountains of Israel and by the rivers and all the places where people live. Yes, I will give them good pasture land on high hills of Israel. There they will lie down in pleasant places and feed in lush mountain pastures. I myself will tend my sheep and cause them to lie down in peace, says the sovereign Lord. I will search for my lost ones who strayed away, and I will bring them safely home again. I will bind up the injured and strengthen the weak, but I will destroy those who are fat and powerful. I will feed them, yes, feed them justice. So God announces that he will be the new shepherd of the people. He's going to do all the things that a good shepherd does. In other words, all the things that their kings didn't do. These verses ask us to think about several large issues. First of all, can we think about the times that people have let us down, or when leaders have failed us? The people of Judah were suffering. The nation had been destroyed, including their beloved temple. They'd been dragged off into exile, and their leaders offered no hope. They had let them down. The commentary references the book by Rabbi Harold Kushner, When Bad Things Happen to Good People. Has anybody read that? It was a great book. I read it years ago, but I can remember that I really liked it and loved the message that it has, because that happens. Bad things do happen to good people, to others and to us. We become disappointed in other people. Maybe leaders at all levels, maybe our church, maybe even our family. That happens all too often. Why do people let us down? Particularly as we think about it on a personal level. Well, the commentary suggests four possibilities. Now, you can think about this on a larger national, international, political level, but you can also think about it on a more narrow level with us personally. The first reason that the commentary gave is that some people are just insensitive to the needs of others. Do you think this is true? I do too. Maybe they're self-absorbed and not capable of empathy and compassion. I read something or saw something on TV not too long ago. There's some scientists have shown that people who are empathetic, if there was something, and I don't know what I went biology one time, physiology, but there was something in the brains different from people who had empathy and those who didn't. Now, it didn't comment on the fact, does that develop as people are empathetic, or is it ingrained? So I don't know, but I thought that was an interesting study. Maybe this was the issue with Judah's kings. They didn't care. Another reason is that for people around us, it may be that some people are so overwhelmed by their own problems that they can't see ours. You know, you never know what a person might be going through. And the lesson for us then is, even as we're concerned about receiving comfort, we need to be concerned about giving comfort as well. And then a third reason is that some people don't help us because they're not aware that we need you. You keep things to yourself. It's hard to reach out to others and confess our pain sometimes, isn't it? Why is it? Yeah. Shame, yeah, exactly. You know, I've got some friends I tell some things to, and some I go to others, and then I go And the last reason is some people are just inattentive to our words because they're just wired differently than we are. People approach life in different ways. You know, some want to be left alone in times of trouble. Some have to talk. This goes along with the previous reason. But whatever the reason for our personal disappointment, do you think that we can, to some degree, understand what the people of Judah were experiencing in the disaster? We had national disasters. Take 9/11. And maybe most have experienced personal catastrophes. None of us have been dragged away from our home country. But I think to some degree that we can put ourselves in their place in thinking about this.
I came down out of nowhere and the nose was going, I said, my nose, her nose makes your nose run. She said, does your feet smell? I said, yeah. She said, why is that? Running in the nose smell. She said, that's why that's why.
But there you go, Jimmy. In addition to thinking about why people, including leaders, let us down, these verses also ask us to think about the traits of a good shepherd and of a nurturing leader. Let me ask you this: do you think that you can learn, that people can be taught leadership traits?
They say you can.
They do, and people will take leadership classes.
Some people are not set. They'll sit there, they'll pay attention. Some people have it, some people don't.
That's true. Some people are receptive and some aren't. You know, I think my feeling is to some degree it's ingrained, but I think you can learn some lessons from a leadership class if you're open to it. I do think it is to some degree. Do you think that you can learn, that it isn't ingrained, that you can learn? I think I'm hearing you say that you can learn strategies that would help to make you a better leader than you might have been.
You know, next to the Bible, one of the most written good.
What is it? I know, but the book, I know that's true. Have you read 7 Habits of Highly Effective People? That's a super duper book. Kept giving it to my son and saying, read this. It's not, it's a slow read, but it's effective not only for leadership. Have you read it, Jeff? It's effective not only for leadership.
Personally, and I told you.
But it really, it's not just leadership, it's about just functioning in life, isn't it? I read it years ago, but
There's no question that there are natural born leaders. But some are good leaders, and some are bad
it's just leading them the wrong way. So a true leader, I think, has the natural born abilities to lead. And then he learns the right way to lead his coach. I believe there's some that's in 8. There's just some, like I said, watching kids. I've watched Carson, for instance. She's 15. And she's a leader. Matter of fact, her teammates voted her as one of their captains. And so other people see that leadership. Maybe they don't even see it themselves. But developing that leadership, I think that's part of the skills of our teachers and Sunday school leaders, seeing that talent and leadership ability. Some people don't see themselves as leaders, and yet they are. So developing that leadership skill, I think that's what takes the motivation and power behind.
What do you think the hardest part about leadership is?
Failures.
Well, I think the hardest part would be able to have people follow. And that's got to come out. That's got to be projected that you are.
I think you make a real good point, but I guess I hadn't thought about. You can have leadership ability, but your motivation can be all along. You can have the skills. I mentioned here where you can have the skills, but if you are motivated to be a good leader, then you won't be. I mean, if you don't have how you want to motivate people.
It's not athletes. I think anybody who's played sports has played with people who have tremendous athletic ability. They just wouldn't work at it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and others, I always think of Pete Rose, he didn't have the best ability, but he hustled, and he overcame, and studied. And even some of these quarterbacks in college that you're starting to see, that kid that's now leading the Washington team, he was never the best and strongest and biggest. Now he's leading, and because he's working at it, so he's putting credit. That's why I think this right here is important. That builds your leadership, I think.
There's another angle to this too that I want to deal with this point. This passage that we read implies a particular type of leadership, and that gets in what you were saying. There are different kinds of leadership, different types. And the type that Ezekiel is talking about in quoting God is the type really necessary for the people of Judah at this time. You know, the people of Judah felt that God had let them down. How did God let this happen to them if they were his chosen people? So Ezekiel reassures them that God hasn't abandoned them, that he, not their former kings, will now be their shepherd. You know, lots of other biblical writers use this image of a good shepherd. Psalms 23, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Isaiah does the same. Jeremiah says, he who scatters Israel will gather him, will keep him as a shepherd of flock. So is likening God to a good shepherd an image of might and power and domination? It's not at all. It gives the feeling of quiet faithfulness. It's interesting that Ezekiel and others use the image of the lowest of the low of their society as an example of how leadership should be. But that got me thinking, is that all that leadership is? Quiet faithfulness? You can really see other characteristics of leadership in other biblical texts. God was sometimes tough when he needed to be. if we really think about this whole idea of leadership styles, it could change the way that we think about leadership in general. And in our day especially, I see a need to really see a balance. A lot of times you don't get that, a balance of somebody who can be tough, but who can also lead with a quiet faithfulness that seeks the welfare of others. And that's what the people of Judah needed at this point, was that quiet faithfulness that sought their welfare. So, if you look at balance of leadership, how does this speak to how we lead as parents, as grandparents, as teachers and pastors and even friends, seeking to serve others rather than to dominate them? You know, the lesson was very much about, the lesson in the program was very much about leadership as quiet faithfulness. But I backed off that just a little bit. You don't have any effectiveness as a leader if you're a doormat. Again, it's that balance that lots of insecure people are afraid to make in the leadership position. Any other comments on that?
He was last in his class.
Yes, he was. To a point, Jim.
When I was growing up, I had sheep, and I had to take care of sheep.
You were shepherd.
11, 12 years old. And I'm not feeding them on the highest fields of Israel. Those sheep, we had to let them out during the day to go out and graze. They would go to the highest point on that mountain. And I had to go get them right at dark. And I first started carrying the bucket and the little toy, a paper bucket and a little toy, and I'd shake that bucket. They'd come too. And we'd come down the mountain, and then after that, I didn't even have to put any corn in that. And then after that, I didn't even have to take my back. And I'd go on the mountain and all farm and reel that come and follow me down the mountain in single file. Now, they didn't come as a herd, as a flock. They followed me single file. And I heard Mama tell me that she worried about me 11, 12 years old going on that mountain where they were bears and bobcats and all that and wild animals were. But she said, I would stand at the back window and watch. And when I could see white, she couldn't see me because it's too dark. But she could see those white sheep coming down the mountain single file. And she knew I was in front of them, and then she could relax.
That's cool, Kim.
I know sheep.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. All right, lastly, our lesson asks us to consider the ultimate example of a good leader, a good shepherd, which of course is Jesus Christ. Later on in Ezekiel, he gives a prophecy from God that says, I will set up over them one shepherd, my servant David, and he shall feed them. He shall feed them and be their shepherd. Many Christians throughout the ages have thought that this verse points to Jesus. He was in the line of David because Jesus says, I am the good shepherd who lays down his life for his sheep. The people of Israel expected the Messiah to be a powerful, dominating military-oriented person to overthrow the conquering Roman Empire. They couldn't imagine a shepherd whose focus was servanthood. Not until the crucifixion and the resurrection and the empty tomb did they really understand that their Messiah was a good shepherd kind of Messiah. They had it all wrong looking for a military leader. The movement to follow Jesus was born after his resurrection, when his followers started meeting in homes to celebrate his life and death and resurrection. They told their friends and neighbors about him, and the word spread. The commentary states that after that, the early church was on fire with enthusiasm. I keep mentioning books I've read. Let me mention another one that I love, and this is one I've read fairly recently. Diane Butler Bass wrote a book called The People's History of Christianity. And it describes the evolution of the practice of Christianity, how people started, how Christianity, the movement started in people's homes, and then how it evolved over the centuries with practiced in different ways, and goes up to the churches that we have today. It's really interesting. I have a copy if somebody wants to borrow it, except I marked it all up as I read, so we can mark the read. Sometimes court alludes to new ways of practicing our Christianity. I remember we had a speaker here a couple of years ago, I guess when Ron was here, talking about how things are moving to the internet. You know, things change. And that the practice of that what we see as our churches are to some degree getting out into the internet and that kind of thing. And we see some of that now. But this book really shows you how the practice of Christianity has evolved. As we move through Christmas time, seemingly so focused on commercialism and hustle and bustle, buy early, buy much. As we approach Christmas, the celebration of Jesus' birth, we need to remember Jesus' humble beginnings and the fact that he was a Messiah who was a good shepherd, willing to lay down his life for his sheep, who are us. And who are really is grammatically correct. You're not perfect mom that you're some English teacher. Okay, let's close the prayer. Anybody want to add anything by the way before we close? Thank you, dear God, for being our good shepherd. And thank you for the gift of Jesus to show us who you are. Go with us, Lord, as we go to the further services of the day. Help us to get the messages that you want us to have. And help us as we go out into the community, Lord, to show people who you are, that you are a good shepherd for all. Amen.
What buttons you hit?
said get the end screen. Oh, with my, I'm sorry.
It's not a touch screen.